bottom line, we've been trying to show you the extremes. What happens when it's too acidic? What happens when it's too alkaline? The bottom line is that we have to maintain, or our bodies are walking a tightrope. We have to maintain balance. Okay, we have to maintain our balance, and that is very, 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 very important. If I'm not speaking loud enough, please let me know, okay? Your body strives to maintain, and this is the homeostasis that we talked about. That's the topmost thing in the list of how your body works. The body tries to maintain a constant internal environment, which means keeping pH, blood pressure, temperature, fats levels, etc., all within normal range. And I tell you, that is a lot of work for the body. Again, that's that slide of the things we're doing. Homeostasis involves regulation of a couple of things, including oxygen, pH, alkalinity. Number 2 there is what we're going to be focusing on tonight, as if you didn't know. Now, where balance and coordination is concerned, or are concerned, we cannot get away from what we call the central governing system of the human body. And I know we've talked about this over and over again. And they are your nervous system, represented by the hypothalamus, your endocrine system, your immune system, which in turn control your 60+ trillion cells. If we are going to be healthy, if we are going to be strong, and our focus is on building strength, we're going to have to focus on having a strong mind with positive emotions predominating over the negative emotions. We will always have setbacks in life, disappointments, but by and large, we should be more on the positive outlook, and that can be achieved. It doesn't matter how bad things are. Having a positive emotional life influences the nervous system, which is the brain, of course, is the most important part of the nervous system, which controls most of the other activities in the body. And then, of course, the brain has its own special nutrients that it needs. We covered a talk about that. This controls the endocrine system. The endocrine system, of course, also has its own needs. The cells of the endocrine system have their needs, and they also have to produce certain things called hormones, which control and coordinate a lot of the activities of the body. The immune system has its own needs. If we can understand what the needs of these 3 systems are and provide for those needs, I would say over 90% of all health issues can be avoided, or at the very least minimized. So we really, really have to get this down. We, again, have covered all of these in the slides in the previous webinars that we've gone through. All right, next slide. Now, when it comes to maintaining temperature, blood pressure, pH, and all those things, these 4 organs are what helps to control them. But they are controlled by the governing system, like we said. So therefore, these organs too need to be empowered, they need to be strengthened, and they all have their unique needs. You've got to realize these things. Each organ, each tissue, each cell, they have general needs, and of course, they have unique needs. And we covered the liver and the large intestine in our talk on the gastrointestinal system. It's one thing to empower your organs, it's another thing entirely to empower your cells. Well, it's not different. It's just that you have to really understand. I take that back. To really understand how to empower your systems and your organs and your tissues, you've got to know what each cell needs to function. You've got to know that. And since we're talking about pH, you've got to realize that each cell regulates its own pH levels, its own acidity and alkalinity, based on the impulses that it gets from the environment. And that's why you have this cell here. You see these tree-like structures arranged around the cell. They are extremely, extremely important to receive impulses, to receive information. Actually, these are glycoproteins. Most of them, glyco means sugar, and proteins are these tree trunks here. The sugars are attached to the tree trunks, and they act as sense receptors. They sense the levels of pH, temperature, and all those other things, and they transmit that to the cell, and the cell responds in exactly the same way that your brain, your skin receive information as a human being. and they act, whether they make you shiver or they make you go into the wear a jacket or something like that. In the same way, the cell does that. So you got to realize that it comes down to the cell. And here we have a picture of a live cell that shows how these things act. Again, we have to think about things from a cellular perspective. All right, I'm not just going to define what acidity and alkalinity means. To tell you the truth, I didn't really understand it in medical school. I mean, it's just a really complicated thing. So we're trying to simplify this as much as possible. But this presentation would not be complete if we did not have a definition. Well, acidity refers primarily to the amount of hydrogen ions in the blood, and alkalinity refers to the amount of hydroxyl ions in the blood. I will not label you any further than that. In our talk on the digestive system, we kind of explained how different parts of the body or different parts of the digestive system have their own unique environment. And I try to put it this way, that there's a place for everything and everything in its place. In the stomach, for instance, and I have this picture here. This outer drawing, okay, the white is outside of the body. Okay, just assume that the greenish tingy part is within the body, and that refers to the blood or the extracellular fluids. So we're talking about the blood and the tissue and the fluids that bathe the cells. The blood has to be maintained at a constant of 7.4 pH, and we mentioned that. But think about that. But check this out. In the mouth, the saliva is about 7.1 pH levels. The stomach is much less because of the hydrochloric acid that is secreted. It is a very high acidity, and one of the reasons for that is to destroy harmful bacteria and to help, again, the enzymes. Some enzymes work better in acidic environments. But then it rises again. I mean, this is all in the same body, folks. It rises again to be able to from 7.5 to about 8. As a matter of fact, pancreatic juice, which is very important for digesting proteins, is the pH of pancreatic juice is about 8.8. That's even a lot more alkaline. And then further down in the bladder, and we had Dr. Coolidge speak last week about incontinence, and he spoke about infections, bladder infections. In the bladder, it's important for it to be slightly acidic so as to be able to kill bacteria as well. So your body understands how each aspect, each section of the digestive tract or each compartment, like the bladder, the kidneys, each of these aspects of the body has an optimal pH range in which it will, for it to work, outside of which it won't work like it should. But our focus primarily today is going to be on the blood and the extracellular fluid. And I just showed these pictures from our last presentation. Again, the stomach has to be at about less than 2 for it to do what it needs to do. Acidity within a tight range encourages probiotics and prevents the growth of harmful bacteria. Without the correct pH, probiotics are good bacteria that work for you and not against you. They are bad bacteria and good bacteria. So the probiotics in the stomach need good acidic pH. All right, let's talk. We're getting more and more into the meat of our presentation today because, again, it's really when it comes to the blood, the things, the tissues, the fluids that bathe your cells, whether the blood or just the extracellular fluid. This is where we win or lose in the fight against disease. Number one, poor diets. We notoriously have a lousy diet, and I'm going to show you one of the reasons why our diet is so lousy. Of course, the polluted environment, that's all over the world's movement, exertion. Think lactic acidosis. When we exert ourselves, when we exercise, yes, exercise is a good thing,